The air in the boardroom was too still, like a storm had already passed or one was just about to begin. The kind of silence that makes your skin buzz. And then a voice cut through it. Not loud, not angry, but sharp, clear, and utterly undeniable. "This clause," the girl said, her hand pointing at the document like it was radioactive. "It flips the liability. If you sign this, sir, your company takes the fall." Every executive in the room froze. You could hear the soft tick of the antique wall clock over the city hum 30 floors below. And standing in the doorway of the 27th floor conference room, in worn-out sneakers and a janitor's badge, was a 16-year-old black girl who shouldn't have been there at all, but somehow should have been the first to speak. Her name was Maya Williams, and in that single moment she wasn't invisible anymore. Jackson Hale, the CEO of the billion-dollar empire bearing his name, had his pen suspended mid-air, his silver eyebrows knit tightly together. His wife, Clara Hale, narrowed her eyes but blinked almost imperceptibly. Derek Vaughn, the polished Texan dealmaker with a smile too easy to trust, gave a slow, disbelieving chuckle. "Excuse me," he said, voice silky and controlled, but Maya didn't flinch. "I read that clause. Page 14, she said. "It pushes every post-merger liability onto Hale Investments. Fraud, lawsuits, debt. If it collapses, your company takes the full hit. Vaughn's firm walks away clean." There was a shiver in the air. One executive pulled the contract closer. Another tapped a tablet to double-check. Whispered glances darted like sparks. Someone murmured, "She's the janitor's daughter." They weren't wrong. 8 hours earlier, Maya had been pushing a cart through that same tower with her mother, sorting shredded paper, wiping down polished glass. Wearing a hoodie with fraying cuffs and a badge that read, "Visitor Maintenance." But where others saw janitorial work, Maya saw the rhythms of power, and when she spotted the folder labeled Final Draft, merger agreement left unattended in the copy tray, instinct, not curiosity, kicked in. Maya wasn't like other teenagers. While others scrolled through TikToks, she read policy manuals. She had once written a school paper called How Enron Collapsed, and proudly watched business documentaries with her grandfather on Sunday afternoons. So when her eyes hit the paragraph subsection C line 3, something in her locked on. A tiny line that quietly flipped the entire future of a company, a buried trap. If the deal failed or lawsuits followed, Hale Investments would be left holding the bag. Vaughn Global, free and clear. She rushed to tell her mother, "Mom, have you ever seen a contract that hands over a whole company like this?" Denise didn't even look up. "Maya, stop it. You'll get us both fired." But now, in the present, her words were too loud to ignore. Jackson Hale looked up from the page, voice controlled but brittle. "You're saying this clause no flips liability?" "Yes, sir," Maya said. "It's hidden in legal-sounding text. If your legal team missed it, it's because it's meant to confuse. It doesn't protect your company. It sets you up to take the fall." For a long second, the room didn't breathe. Then Jackson slowly lowered his pen. And in that heartbeat, an empire teetered. "Escort her out," Jackson Hale said, voice low but decisive. Security moved without a word. One guard placed a firm hand on Maya's shoulder. The other gestured toward the elevator with quiet finality. She didn't resist, didn't cry, didn't scream. She stood tall, head high, even as the glass doors whispered shut behind her. But just before they closed, she turned. For a split second, her eyes locked with Jackson's, and in that moment, he didn't see a janitor's daughter. He saw a warning, a reflection, and a decision he had almost made. His pen never touched the paper. Downstairs, the silence in the security office was thick enough to choke on. Maya sat on the edge of a cold plastic chair, fingers folded in her lap, heart beating like a drum. No one looked at her. No one spoke to her. Her mother, Denise, sat beside her, shoulders tight, lips drawn into a line so thin it looked like it had been carved from stone. It had been over an hour. Maya stole a glance at her. Denise didn't return it. Instead, she stared straight ahead, eyes locked on some invisible point on the far wall. "I'm sorry, Mom," Maya whispered. Denise turned her head slowly. You should be. Maya swallowed. I just wanted to help. I clean this building, Denise said, voice low but sharp. To keep food on our table, not so you can storm into a boardroom like you run the place. I didn't mean to embarrass you. But you did, Denise snapped. Then softer. I raised you to be brave, Maya. But I didn't raise you to be reckless. Before Maya could say anything more, the office door creaked open. A woman in a sharp navy suit and sensible heels stepped inside, holding a clipboard like a weapon. Mrs. Williams, she said, without even glancing at Maya. You've been placed on temporary leave pending internal review. We'll contact you once a determination has been made. Denise stood slowly. Come on, she said, taking Maya by the arm. They didn't speak as they stepped outside. Cold Chicago air whipped across their faces like a slap. Maya looked back once at the tower of glass and steel that loomed above them, the place she thought she could make a difference, the place that now wanted her gone. 30 floors above, Jackson Hale sat alone in his office. The unsigned contract lay open on the desk before him, pages fanned out like a crime scene. He stared at the paragraph she'd mentioned, subparagraph C, line 3, and let his finger trace the words. It was there, clear, unapologetic, a single sentence that handed over years of corporate protection and accountability in the blink of a signature. How did I miss this? He rubbed his temple slowly. His head pounded. Clara's voice echoed from the boardroom earlier. It's a standard clause, Jackson. Just trust me. Trust. That word used to mean something. He reached for his laptop and began cross-referencing contracts. Vaughn Global. Other mergers. Legal language. Subsidiary names. Offshore structures. A lot of it looked clean. Too clean. Then his phone buzzed. Clara. He hesitated before answering. You didn't sign it, did you? She asked immediately. No, Jackson said. His voice was flat. You're overthinking it. We vetted Derek's firm, remember? You're letting that girl get in your head. He paused. She saw what none of us did. Clara laughed softly, the sound brittle and empty. Come on, Jackson. She's a teenager, the janitor's daughter. You're seriously questioning your entire legal team because of a child? Jackson didn't respond. I'm coming up, Clara said and hung up. That night, in a small apartment lit by one flickering lamp, Maya sat curled on the couch, a mug of cocoa cooling between her palms. The air felt still. Tense. Her mother sat across from her, clicking through job listings on a cracked tablet. Do you regret it? Maya asked, voice barely above a whisper. Denise sighed. I regret that you lost faith in grown-ups doing their jobs. Maya didn't respond, but deep inside she knew she hadn't been wrong. Her phone pinged. An email. No subject. Unknown sender. She opened it. From Robert Barnes. Subject. You saw it too. Message. I used to work there. I know what you saw. If you're willing to talk, I'll listen. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, heart racing. Then she typed back. Because maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone. Later that night, Jackson unlocked a hidden compartment in his office wall safe. He pulled out a folder labeled Hale Internal, Barnes Review. It was dusty, untouched for years. Inside, flagged risks, buried audits, internal memos. On one page, a note written in red pen. Risk exposure too centralized. If they plant one, signature trap, we're done. RB. Jackson stared at it. The date was 2 years ago. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Clara never liked to wait. She entered his office like she owned it, her heels tapping sharp against the oak floor. It's still sitting there, she said, arms folded, nodding toward the unsigned contract. You've had a day. Jackson didn't look up. And I'll need more. Her smile thinned. Jackson, This deal is time-sensitive. Derek's offering terms no one else would touch. You saw the numbers. I also saw a liability clause that could have gutted this company. Clara stepped around the desk, trailing a manicured nail along the edge of the contract. One clause. Legal language. You know how these things work. Don't tell me you're giving weight to the janitor's daughter over me, she added coolly. That made him look up. She saw it, he said. No one else did, not you, not the legal team, not even me. Clara's expression didn't change, but her tone dropped a degree. She's a child, Jackson, and she just got you to question everything. That should concern you. He stood. What concerns me, he said, is that she was right. Back in her bedroom, Maya sat huddled near the radiator. Her laptop glowed in the dark. Barnes had sent encrypted PDFs, tax statements, shell company breakdowns, merger language comparisons. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough. This wasn't one deal. It was a pattern. Barnes confirmed it on their call. Vaughn had done it before, in Houston. Same legal trick. The target company took the liability. Vaughn walked, away clean and richer every time. Maya started highlighting indemnification, contingent liability, burden of performance. She didn't know every word, but she knew something rotten when she smelled it. I can't believe he's married to that woman, she muttered. Her mom, washing dishes behind her, let out a humorless snort. Power marries ambition. It's always been that way. Meanwhile, Jackson sat alone in a private lounge overlooking the Chicago skyline. A scotch sat untouched beside him. At a far table, shielded by frosted glass, sat Clara. Across from her, Derek Vaughn. They were laughing. Clara's hand brushed Vaughn's wrist. His grin? Too wide. Too relaxed. Jackson's jaw tensed. He couldn't hear their words. But he didn't need to. Clara leaned in. Derek handed her something small. A flash drive. Then he touched her hand. Too long to be professional. Jackson turned. Away. His stomach turned to ice. Had she been using him this entire time? Back at home, Maya's phone buzzed again. Text from Barnes. Look into Clara's spending habits. Cayman, British Virgin Islands, Zurich. Maya's eyes widened. She's in on it, she whispered. She's not just clueless. She's involved. She opened her laptop. Her hands trembled as she searched through public records, and there it was. Clara Hale's name. A dormant trust in the British Virgin Islands. At that exact moment, Jackson received an email from internal compliance subject, suspicious access activity body, unauthorized attempt to transfer 2.5 million from dormant reserve account. Flagged, blocked. Jackson leaned back in his chair. The trap wasn't just corporate, it was inside his home. That night, 3 people didn't sleep. Maya Williams, piecing together a puzzle too big for a teenager. Jackson Hale, watching his empire rot from the inside. And Clara Hale, sitting beside Derek Vaughn in a black SUV, whispering, he's starting to dig. Derek's reply was ice. Then we bury him before he reaches the roots. The deeper Maya dug, the more the lies unraveled. Offshore transfers, shell companies, fake subsidiaries. This wasn't just a hidden clause. It was an entire architecture of deception. And Clara Hale's name was carved into every wall of it. 3 transfers stood out, 1 to the Cayman Islands, 1 to Zurich, and 1 buried inside a dormant trust in the British Virgin Islands. The amounts weren't round numbers, they were surgical, quiet enough to dodge red flags, timed between deals, split across shadow entities. She didn't know how to read every document, but the pattern was clear. Clara wasn't an accessory. She was coordinating. At the same time, 30 floors above, Jackson Hale was staring at a screen. His inbox pinged with an urgent message from internal compliance. Subject, urgent, blocked internal transfer body. An attempt was made to move $2.5 million from dormant reserve account TAC 42 at 2:08 a.m. Transaction was flagged and denied. DWAB, Request had come from Clara's credentials. He leaned back, staring at nothing. A slow exhale left his lips like it had been stuck in his chest for years. His empire wasn't just compromised, it was being dismantled from within, and the call was coming from inside the house. Maya's inbox pinged again. Barnes. Or so she thought. She opened the message and froze. It was short. Cold. They know I'm helping you. Don't come back here. Find someone you trust. R. Attached was one thing. A zip file. Encrypted and unsigned. Inside? Dozens of files. Transaction logs. Corporate filings. Voice recordings. Internal emails. No passwords. Just a sticky note scanned into a PDF. Her name is Victoria Chan. She'll know what to do. That same night, Jackson sat in his car across from a courthouse that had been closed for years. He wasn't meeting a judge. He was waiting for Victoria. She arrived exactly on time. Black wool coat, sharp shoulders, purposeful stride. She looked like she carried entire verdicts in her briefcase and had nothing to prove to anyone. "Mr. Hale," she said, sliding into the passenger seat like she belonged there. "You came to the right person." "I'm not here to clean up a bad deal," he said. "I'm here because something is rotting under my company, and I think it's connected to racketeering." She tilted her head. "Go on." "There's a 16-year-old girl, Maya Williams. She caught a liability clause no one else did. Not my lawyers, not me. No one." At the mention of Maya's name, Victoria smiled for the first time. "Then she might be your most valuable witness." The next morning, Maya stood outside Hale Tower, bag of files clutched tight in her hands. She wasn't on the access list. Security told her to wait. And she did. In the cold, for over an hour. Then a young man from accounting, someone she recognized from the late-night vacuuming shifts, walked by. He paused, looked around, leaned in. Mr. Hale said, "If you ever came back, I should take you straight up." Jackson stood when she entered. No assistants, no suits, no cold formalities, just a man who had almost signed his company into oblivion. He extended a hand, not as a CEO, but as someone who now understood he had been blind. "I owe you more than an apology," he said. Maya met his eyes. "Then let's get the truth out before someone else disappears." They sat at the war table, his private conference room. It looked more like a battlefield now. Screens, whiteboards, printouts, timelines. Victoria joined them minutes later, nodding to Maya. "Welcome to the war." Maya opened the Barnes file. They pored over it together. 3 ruined companies. 3 identical liability flips. 3 times Vaughn walked away richer. Each time, Clara Hale's name was hidden deep inside the approval trail. Meanwhile, Vaughn and Clara met again, this time behind tinted windows in a private suite. Clara's mask of calm was cracking. She paced the room in tight circles, clutching her phone. "Everything we buried. She's finding it," she hissed. Derek Vaughn sat back, sipping whiskey like the house was not on fire. "She's a child. She's a child with records. She doesn't have power. She doesn't need power, she has attention." Vaughn finally stood, pulled out a black folder. Inside, names, judges, reporters, 1 federal clerk. "We remind them who holds real influence," he said. Clara didn't blink. "We bury them." But outside the cafe, Maya sat quietly on a bus, recording the entire exchange with a borrowed burner phone. She didn't flinch. She pressed record. The war was no longer silent. Back at the tower, Jackson made his first quiet move. He initiated a deep audit. Shut down external transfers, froze all dormant accounts, cleaned out shadow teams. No press, no board alerts, just quiet surgical action. But it didn't stay quiet for long. That night, Maya received a text. No number, no name, just 5 words. "We know where you live." She stared at the screen. Her hands trembled, but only for a moment. Then she slipped the phone into her bag, walked into the school office, and told them everything. By nightfall, Victoria had secured a temporary protection order for both Maya and her mother. But the walls were closing in. Victoria moved fast, filed for an injunction, requested a federal audit of Vaughn Global, filed whistleblower status for Maya under sealed motion. They tried to keep it quiet, but it leaked. By morning, it was everywhere. Breaking, billion-dollar merger paused after 16-year-old whistleblower flags internal fraud. Who is Maya Williams? Hale Investments in turmoil. Teen janitor's daughter at center of financial firestorm. Social media ignited. Some called her a hero. Others called her a plant. A few called her worse. Maya's school inbox filled with threats, support, questions, reporters. She turned off her phone. But the world kept watching. Jackson called an emergency boardroom meeting. His executive sat tight-jawed and pale. He walked in carrying a stack of documents and a flash drive. "I should have seen this sooner," he began. He laid out every thread. The audit trails, the offshore accounts, the Vaughn pattern, the audio file. Then he said the words that turned the room colder than marble. "You've got a choice," Jackson said. "Help me clean this house from the inside and or watch it burn from the outside." No one moved. Then one by one, they nodded. Across the city, Clara met Derek Vaughn again. Her charm was gone. Her tone, clipped, cold. "He's not going quietly, Vaughn." Leaned back. "Then maybe and we stop being quiet too." He slid her a drive. "A new plan. A new target. We take the fight public. Burn them before they burn us." Back in her apartment, Maya sat with her mother on the fire escape, city lights flickering below. Denise's hands were shaking as she handed Maya a mug of tea. "They called again," she said. "Said if I didn't keep quiet, they'd erase your school record. Said they can make it look like you never existed." Maya stared straight ahead. Calm. "They already tried." "You're a kid, Maya. This isn't your fight." Maya's voice didn't waver. "It became mine the second they used people like us as their cover." And for the first time, Denise saw not defiance but purpose. That weekend, Victoria received a call from the Justice Department. "They're watching Vaughn quietly," she relayed to Jackson. "But they need more. They need someone to testify publicly." Jackson stared at the skyline, then answered, "Then I will." By Monday morning, Hale Investments was no longer a fortress. It was a battlefield. Servers went into routine maintenance. But no one believed that. Compliance teams worked overtime. Legal whispered behind closed doors. HR flagged every email containing the words offshore, Vaughn, and whistleblower or Jackson Hale. And through it all, Jackson stood calm in the eye of the storm. No more doubts, no more excuses. It was war. Across town, Clara stood in her penthouse staring out the window, phone pressed to her ear. "They're coming for us," she whispered. Vaughn didn't blink. "Let them. We don't run. We counterattack." "You said the papers were buried." "They were. Someone dug them up." Clara's voice dropped. "You don't get it. It's not Jackson who's leading this." "Then who is?" Clara closed her eyes. "It's the girl." There was silence. Then Vaughn answered coldly. "Then maybe it's time we remind the world who holds the real power." The sky over downtown Chicago was a slate-gray canvas as courtroom 12B filled with murmurs, camera flashes, and the weight of unspoken truths. Outside, the media swarmed like bees around a hive. Inside, the temperature felt colder than it should have, or maybe that was just the tension. Jackson Hale adjusted his tie, eyes scanning the jury. Victoria Chan stood beside him, flipping calmly through her notes, unreadable as ever. Maya Williams, just 2 rows behind them, sat quietly. No blazer, no makeup, just a white blouse, her hair in neat braids, her hands gripping the hem of her skirt like it anchored her to the floor. Across the aisle, Derek Vaughn sat poised, his calm almost defiant. Clara Hale was beside him, wearing a slate-gray suit and a frozen face. Her fingers didn't move. Her lips never parted. She looked like marble carved to impress, not to feel. "All rise," the bailiff called. The judge entered. "The case that had gripped an entire financial empire, was now on record. Victoria rose. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. She painted the canvas with cold facts, no theatrics, no shouting. Just contracts, timelines, audio files, and buried authorizations that slowly stitched together a clear picture of corporate betrayal. One by one, the documents told the story. 3 companies, 3 identical patterns, 1 beneficiary every time. Derek Vaughn, and behind the curtain in each deal, Clara Hale's digital fingerprint emails, approval logs, flash drives, offshore banking connections. The jury leaned in. The court reporter's pen raced. Still, Clara's face didn't move. Not yet. Then, the moment everyone had been waiting for. Victoria turned. Your Honor, I would like to call Maya Williams to the stand. Gasps fluttered through the courtroom. Reporters scribbled frantically. A few cameras outside buzzed live feeds into phones across America. Maya stood, walked slowly, no flinch, no fear. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore in, sat down. Victoria's voice softened. Miss Williams, how did you come to be involved in this matter? I was helping my mom on the 27th floor, Maya said. Her voice was steady. She works on the night cleaning staff. I saw the contract in the copy room. The signature at the bottom didn't look right. And when I read the fine print, it didn't sound right either. Victoria nodded. What stood out to you? There was a clause. Page 14, subparagraph C. It transferred all liability from Vaughn's firm to Mr. Hale's company. If anything went wrong, only one side paid the price. Victoria leaned in. Why speak up? You were 16. No one asked you to read it. Maya looked directly at Clara, then at Vaughn, then to the jury, and delivered the line that would echo through newsrooms, classrooms, and courtrooms for years. Just because I clean your floors doesn't mean I don't see the dirt. Pause for beat. Silence. The courtroom froze. Even the judge's gaze shifted. Clara's hand twitched. Vaughn's eyes narrowed. Victoria stepped back. No further questions. Cross-examination came hard. Vaughn's attorney sneered. Miss Williams, are you a legal expert? No, sir, Maya replied, calm. But I don't think you need a degree to recognize when someone's being set up to fail. Did you understand every term in that contract? No, Maya answered. But I understood enough to know it was written to confuse. The jury didn't blink. They watched her not as a teenager, but as the only one who had the courage to say it out loud. Next, Jackson took the stand. Victoria asked one question. What made you believe her? Jackson paused. At first, a feeling in my gut. But what sealed it was something I had forgotten. And what was that? He turned to Maya. That integrity doesn't depend on status. Sometimes, the janitor's daughter sees the cracks before the board does. Finally, Clara Hale took the stand. She walked with elegance, sat with precision. Her posture perfect, her voice clipped, until Victoria pressed play. The audio file crackled. Clara's voice echoed through the room. Cold, calculating. He won't question it, not if I push at the right time. Then Vaughn's voice followed. And if he does, we remind him what he has to lose. Clara's eyes closed. Her hands folded. And for the first time since the trial began, her voice trembled. I didn't mean for it to go that far, she whispered. I thought if I could push it through, Jackson wouldn't have to know. It was just one more deal, one more shortcut. And when Maya exposed it? Victoria asked. I wanted her gone, Clara said, because she saw everything I worked so hard to keep hidden. Outside the courthouse, the air buzzed with media vans and camera shutters. Maya exited through a side door. Jackson followed her. You didn't have to come, she said softly. I owed you, he replied. I wanted to be the man you thought I was. When you walked into that boardroom, she gave a faint smile. You're getting there. Inside, Clara returned to her seat beside Vaughn. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. But her silence said it all. The empire was cracking, and the jury had seen more than fraud. They had seen betrayal. Betrayal of trust, of truth, of the people no one thought would ever speak. The next morning, the courtroom filled once more. The jury filed in, somber, steady. Maya sat between Victoria and her mother, gripping the hem of her skirt tighter than before. Jackson stood behind them, jaw clenched. Vaughn smirked faintly. Clara looked at the floor. The judge called the court to order. On the count of conspiracy to commit corporate fraud, we find the defendants guilty. On the count of falsifying financial documents, guilty. On the count of obstruction and tampering with legal contracts, guilty. Each word fell like a gavel striking stone. A lifetime of manipulation. Undone. Vaughn's smirk disappeared. Clara's eyes closed. The judge issued the sentence swiftly. 10 years in federal prison. No parole for the first 7. Maya finally exhaled. For the first time in days, outside reporters shouted, microphones swarmed. Maya, how does it feel to be the girl who saved a corporation? Mr. Hale, will you rebuild? Victoria, what's next for your young witness? Maya didn't answer them all. Just one. What do you want people to remember from this case? She looked into the nearest camera. That truth doesn't depend on your title. And justice doesn't care how clean your shoes are. Weeks later, Hale Investments didn't collapse. It reformed. Jackson initiated a full structural overhaul. Clara's name was stripped from every official record. Vaughn's assets were frozen. Victoria was named Chief Ethics Counsel. And Maya Williams? She was offered a full-ride scholarship. At a press conference inside the tower she once cleaned, Jackson made the announcement himself. Today, we establish the Maya Williams Fellowship for young minds with vision and courage. She didn't just protect this company. She reminded us who we were supposed to be. The room erupted in applause. Maya stood beside him, in a blazer over her white blouse, no longer invisible. Later that night, Jackson sat in his office. Maya walked in, holding a manila envelope. I got my Columbia acceptance letter, she said. Smiling, he returned it. You've earned more than that. You've got a seat at any table you want. She hesitated. Do you regret any of it? Jackson looked out the window. The city glowed like gold. I regret that I didn't see it coming, he said softly. But I don't regret who stood up when I couldn't. She nodded, then placed the envelope on his desk. Days later, Clara Hale was processed into the federal detention center in Wisconsin. No statement, no appeal, only silence. In her cell, her empire reduced to static in the news. She played the audio again and again. Just because I clean your floors doesn't mean I don't see the dirt. The words wouldn't stop. Back in Jackson's office, he placed Maya's envelope on a shelf beside his most treasured awards. Next to it, a new plaque. Truth isn't loud, but it lasts. He leaned back in his chair, eyes closed. A girl once pointed to a signature and changed everything. The sun cut sharp lines across the polished glass of Hale Tower, its reflection brighter than it had ever seemed before. Below, the bronze plaque near the entrance now read, The Maya Williams Fellowship, for courage, integrity, and vision. Maya paused at the curb, staring up at the building she used to vacuum at 2 a.m. The same lobby that once held her in silence now carried her name on marble. She wore no suit, no lanyard, just a calm presence, like someone who no longer needed permission to be seen. Behind her, on the other side of the plaza, Denise stood with a paper coffee cup in hand. She didn't wave, didn't call out, just watched, quiet, proud, and steady. A mother witnessing the full arc of a story she never dared imagine. Maya looked up one last time, then turned and walked. But elsewhere, far from the tower's glow, shadows moved. In a private suite cloaked by tinted windows, Derek Vaughn sat in silence, scrolling through a list of names. Judges, witnesses, a low-level clerk in the DOJ. one senator's aide, one journalist's spouse. A new file, freshly uploaded, marked in red. J. Hale, internal rebuild, vulnerabilities. Clara. Hale, no longer in prison orange but in a tight black dress, stood behind him, her hair pulled back, her tone calm but charged. "They think it's over," she said. "It isn't," Vaughn replied. "We were careless, that won't happen again. Then we rebuild. Better. Deeper." He tapped a screen. A new name lit up. Maya Williams. Media exposure risk. Monitor. "She's a kid," Clara said, but her voice lacked its usual conviction. Vaughn didn't flinch. "She's a symbol, and symbols don't die quietly." Later that evening, Maya sat alone on the fire escape of their new apartment. A soft breeze rolled across the rooftop, carrying the sounds of the city. Below, people laughed over street tacos and jazz floated up from a bar's open door. Her phone buzzed. No name, no number, just a message. It's not over, it never was. Maya stared at it for a long moment, then closed the message and opened her notebook. She scribbled one line across the top of the next page. If truth can crack an empire, then what happens when it becomes a movement? She didn't flinch, she didn't hide, because this time she wasn't waiting to be heard. She was the voice.